Blog Talk Radio.
Broadcasting worldwide from beautiful Santa Monica, California. It's time to get real. What makes someone rich and successful while others stay stuck in the grind? How can you maximize your potential, live your dreams, and build your wealth? Taking an honest look at our world and the markets that move it. Let's talk to successful people and take a look inside their heads. Let's simplify success and spread the wealth. Let's prove the American dream is still alive. This is Real Business Talk with your host, Los Angeles expert realtor and entrepreneur, Robert Crawford. Call in now, 347-205-9356. That's 347-205-9356. Make sure you follow us at realbusinesstalk.com.
Hey, this is Real Business Talk. It is Tuesday, November 4th, 2014. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Real Business Talk. I am your host, Robert Crawford. We have a great show. A lot of things I wanted to talk about today. Now, a lot's happening. Today is actually elections, the midterm elections in the United States. A period where we're not electing a president, but still an important period. Today we were voting on governor of California. I just got out of the polls not too long ago and was a bit surprised by him, to be honest. I mean, there's really only two choices. We have the Republicans and the Democrats. And I wanted to dive a little deeper into that tonight and see really how that affects small businesses. Feel free to call into the show in the next 30 minutes. You can call in now to join the conversation. I love to chat. Call me at 347-205-9356. That's 347-205-9356. Okay, now I put together some facts, and I want to go through them tonight. But before I do that, I really want to talk about what happened at the election ballot. Nothing out of the ordinary happened, I must say that. What I was very surprised on were really the candidates. I mean, I took my time and really went through all the candidates, and I tried to research it ahead of time and really found it difficult to get any actual information about the candidates that were running. So while we were there, they gave us a California general election official voter information guide, and it seemed promising, except what I thought was one of the most important elections of the evening for governor of this state was really lackluster. I mean, it doesn't even have the governor's descriptions in here. It says nothing about the governors. They actually opted out of putting information into this. So you're really kind of going in blind. So I pulled out my iPhone and started researching on Safari. And, it was really about two poor choices. One of them was a former employee for Goldman Sachs. Let me pull him up. It was against Jerry Brown and Neil Kashkari. Neil Kashkari seemed promising. No one's been a fan of Jerry Brown. Obviously, there's still a lot of problems in California. I think California is a blessed state. I think it has a lot more than almost every other state in the union and probably the world. But it also has a lot of problems, and especially if you're an accountant. If you're looking at the books, it doesn't look good. And Neil is a business owner, but I was a bit turned off when I learned in his past history that he was with Goldman Sachs. And I really think this banking structure is the root of all of our problems. And we're on this very lackluster course that's heading us straight over a giant cliff if we don't take a U-turn very quickly. So tonight I put together some facts, so let's start diving through them. I call this freedom versus corruption, the elections of 2014, midterm elections. Business is undoubtedly linked to the freedom and rights within a society. It's a hard knock life for most Americans these days. Politics, which is considered a dirty word in most social scenes, is about so much more than a battle between two representatives. The roots of what our country and society are built on, we, the people, are under attack. We deserve knowledge from a free and open society. We deserve a fair and balanced justice system to protect our rights. We deserve the freedom to ethically trade goods and services for profit. We deserve a fair currency backed by precious metal. We deserve a top-notch education system that doesn't enslave with debt. We deserve not to be hassled by the government for how we spend and earn our money. And we deserve love and security, a combination that warms the core of our heart. We deserve a free life. But currently, it's really more of a staged ring. What I mean by that is there's two big players, Democrats and Republicans. It's interesting that our ballots consist of such limited choices. We're ushered into an area. Tonight was a school right behind where I live, and there's nothing wrong with that. We're given a punch card, a limited packet of information, and told to decide who will rule over aspects of our lives for multiple years. Unfortunately, the elections of 2014 were a sorry attempt to fix a large problem. The world debt level is skyrocketing out of control, while banks continue to create fractional reserve currency out of thin air. Literally, they are creating money out of thin air. And not just the Federal Reserve. We're talking about the large major banks. Whenever a loan is created, and I'll go into some facts about loans in a second, but whenever a loan is created, they're actually lending invisible money, basically, someone else's money created off of money from investments of their own customers. But more importantly, they're able to leverage their customers' money by 10%, meaning for every $100 you put into that bank, they can then loan out $900. They're turning $100 into $900. And we can't do that ourselves. You think we're on a level playing field? That sounds insane to me. A majority of Americans can relate to the ideals of the right or the left. But today's Democratic show only has two players. The real question that we must ask is why, in a supposed democratic republic, do we only have two choices? Are there no other qualified individuals that fit outside these two rigid boxes? Looking back at history, we see that our current political situation is similar to many mistakes of society's past. We're talking mistakes of all the past civilizations. America has been an attempt to create a free and open society. And I say attempt strongly because it was never really realized. Bill of Rights was actually created about 20 years after we got independence, but it's never been fully realized. So the battle between Democrat and Republican is obviously a failure. No question about it. So let's talk about the challengers. I got challenger number one in the corner, the Republicans, and challenger number two, the Democrats. Let's talk about their ideals and how they help or harm business when we come back in just a second.
Friends, the current economic system is set up to reward the rich and leave you with nothing. Stagnating and declining wages makes it harder than ever to achieve your dreams. That is why we've developed a platform to allow you to raise the funds for the goals and the dreams you wish to achieve. Dream Bucket allows you to set up dream campaigns and have others give towards your dream. Whether that dream is education, travel, family, or material items, dreambucket.me gives you a tool to raise the amount you need from the people who care. Kickstart your dreams by creating a dream campaign or two now. Just go to dreambucket.me to get started.
Okay, let's dive into some of the facts about our current state, the current economics, the current state of making money. I mean, that's really what this entire system is built off of. So let's look at it a different way. What if life isn't all about money? Let's just look at outside the box, for example. When we step outside the box and we walk into the woods, let's say we're in New York State. It's autumn. The leaves are turning. Slightly crisp, cold. No snow yet. The leaves are on the ground. You have the smell of fireplaces in the air. You're walking through and you notice a bunch of animals in the woods. You see some deer. You see some rabbits run across. You see, you run across a pond and you see some fish in there. They're not trading money between each other. I don't see deer trading dollars. I don't see them trading euros. I don't see them trading gold. Granted, they might not need the necessities that we've become accustomed to. I get that. Material possessions are nice for our day-to-day lives right now. But I'm not saying we should get rid of the system. I'm just saying how can we make it an even playing field? Because when I look at things, when I look at the world, when I think about the world, when I go into the woods and think to myself, really, what is this all about? I think that there is an abundance. There is an abundance on this planet that we have been gifted. Enough for everyone. Everyone. To get what they need in a sustainable fashion. We need to stop using things like oil and gas and get off of those and go to sustainable levels of energy. And once we can do that, there's really nothing stopping us from thriving except a fake economic system. So we got challenger number one, the Republicans. We believe government should tax. This is the Republicans' official belief. We believe government should tax only to raise money for its essential function. The Republicans state their case plainly on the Republican National Convention website. You can go check that out anytime you want. Let me say that again. Their main core economic belief is we believe government should tax only to raise money for its essential function. That is, Republicans believe government should spend money only to enforce contracts, maintain basic infrastructure and national security, and protect citizens against criminals. The above statement makes a lot of logical sense and sound business sense to me. I agree with the statement completely. What gets in the way is the reality of the societal beliefs and how they actually affect the execution of this. The statement says nothing about war or a military-industrial complex. So, according to this statement, all the money should go to maintain infrastructure, national security, and protect citizens against criminals. Yet the infrastructure is crumbling, so the money must be going mainly to national security and protect citizens against criminals. Both of those sound fairly similar to me. And now that we have the Homeland Security, it really just combines the two. And since they defined criminal, and their main goal is to protect citizens from criminals, what stops them from getting out of hand? Where are the checks and balances? Okay, let's look at the Democrats. The tax policy for the Democratic Party calls for raising certain taxes to provide money for government spending, which in turn generates business. The party platform asserts that government spending provides good jobs and will help the economy today. That is their official policy. So the tax policy is to create or raise taxes to get more money, to spend more money, and because they're spending more money, that will create jobs and help the economy. That could be true if all the money was just going into programs that employed government employees. But I think, looking back at things, I mean, just look at the collapse of Russia. It really didn't add up. So that belief is fundamentally almost the same as a socialist party. Now, I voted Democrat and I voted Republican. I voted both today alone. So I'm not bashing either party. I'm just looking at the facts. I mean, they state that the tax policy of the Democratic Party calls for raising certain taxes to provide money for government spending. Their entire core belief is to raise taxes and spend more money. What part of that equation creates more money? Unless it's a rigged system. Because if we were using gold and silver, or something that they couldn't create with a computer printer, or the touch of, I mean, really 2 keystrokes these days, I mean, come on, it's ridiculous. I mean, this is true in a fiat-based economic system, but it leads to drastic ups and downs of the market without a stable back. What we really have to look at here is small business is literally the enemy of the state. Conservatives and liberals have seen their ugly days, and with constant media propaganda only promoting the 2 big parties, and with giant, huge corporate money and resources backing them, it's harder and harder to get our voices heard. So let's look at the questionable actions in the system. Let's look at some of the facts. These are direct facts. Since Obama has been president, and I'm not bashing Obama, there's facts on Bush, there's facts on going back 100 years to 1913, where most of this problem really started. Really before then, but they defeated the problem a few times. Well, we can talk about it another day. But since Obama has been president, 7 out of every 8 jobs that have been created in the U.S. economy have been part-time jobs. The number of full-time workers in the United States is nearly 6 million, below the old record that was set back in 2007. That's 6 million below the record. It hit the record, and then it dropped below the record. What? The number of full-time workers in the United States is nearly 6 million below the old record. I mean, that's insane to believe, but that's a direct cause, especially Obamacare, mandating anyone over 30 hours. So if I was a manager, I'm a business owner, and when I hire someone, I'm going to hire them as a 1099 employee now. Because as a 1099 employee, I will get around some of these litigations as long as they're a very specific job. If it's someone that's doing a much more general job, they will have to be a worker. And if I hire them for over 30 hours a week, I need to pay for health insurance. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the ideals of it, but what's actually happening is the problem. And it's hard to believe, but an astounding 53% of all American workers now make less than $30,000 a year. 40% of all workers in the United States actually make less than what a full-time minimum wage worker made in 1968. Are you freaking kidding me? Like, you got paid working full-time in 1968 more than 40% of the people working full-time today. That's over 50 years. That's 56 years ago. The wage is the exact same. But inflation has gone crazy. Since the Federal Reserve was created in 1913, the dollar has lost 96% of its value. So basically that means if you had $1 and then you cashed it in for pennies, you had 100 pennies. Every year, you could only use that dollar 100 years from now. Every year, it would take a penny away. Not only would it take a penny away, but then the price of everything around you got more money, so that penny wouldn't buy the same amount. Okay, so a little more Obama bash, I guess, but I like the guy at first. He's either corrupt himself, but I think what is more likely is the powers that be have corrupted him. They got some stranglehold on him. I don't know, they're like blackmailing him. I don't have facts on this, and this is just my gut feeling. But, when the Obama era began, the average duration of unemployment in this country was 19.8 weeks. Today, it is 36.6 weeks. So when someone loses their job, it takes them longer to get a job. So everyone's making less money. There's more people looking for a job. They're waiting longer to get a job. And in 2008, the U.S. trade deficit with China was $268 billion. Last year, it was $315 billion. To be honest, the trade deficit with China is not our biggest concern. And from what I've been hearing, they've been dumping bonds like crazy. For anyone that doesn't know, that basically means they're cashing out. It's basically like they went to the casino. They went to Vegas. They walked in to win. Let's say Win partnered with the Federal Reserve. They hopped out. They plopped down at the roulette table, started playing some blackjack, played around, and just kept putting more money and getting chips. Then they went home with their chips. They never really cashed out the chips. So we had the money. We could do what we wanted with the money. But they're holding on to $315 billion worth of chips. But they've also been cashing in a lot of those chips. And they've been cashing in those chips and then turning them into gold. Like, this is really happening. So they're cashing in their money and turning it into gold. So if they have such a huge chunk of the economy, which they don't, it's really a small sliver of the overall number. The overall number is somewhere like $200 to $400 trillion of derivatives for the overall economy that the Federal Reserve somehow has a hand in. But more importantly, when they started dumping the dollars to buy gold or using it for other investments, like their space race, which they're about to launch, what started happening is we saw those bonds getting purchased by Belgium. So Belgium magically bought hundreds of billions of dollars worth of bonds. We're talking over $1 trillion worth of bonds. Belgium didn't have $1 trillion, but yet $12 trillion has gone missing since 2006 from the Federal Reserve. And that's just what Congress found out about. We're talking $12 trillion. Let me break this down for a second. $12 trillion. Let's say there's 330 million people in America. $36 million per person. I mean, that's pretty crazy. All right. You know, the poverty rate has shot up to 16.1%. It's actually higher than the war on poverty began in 1965. At this point, more than 1 million public school students in the United States are homeless. 1 million students are homeless. This is the first time that has ever happened in our history. The number has risen by 57% since the 2006-2007 school year. Now, I don't know how much of these are illegal immigrants, the kids that have been coming over here, but it's pretty nuts. So I just wanted to finish off tonight, before I got in any deeper, with Article 1, Section 10 of the United States Constitution, and talk a bit about fiat economics. You can get a lot more. Just go to realbusinesstalk.com. All the facts and documentation's there. You can see it all on the blog. It's going to be up with this episode, talking about the IRS, how taxes are crushing small businesses, and how they have actually been raised $1,800 just in the last, since 2012. But I really want to hit on the fiat economics, because I think this directly what is affecting the money and the choices we have for the political election and the choices they make after they're elected. I'm not saying everyone, but I'm saying a good handful of individuals in politics. So Article 1, Section 10, United States Constitution states, no state shall make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debt. Do on that. For that, have a good night. Tuesday, November 4th. It was election night. And remember, this is a fight against freedom versus corruption. Because free business is good for everyone. Good night.
As part of Keller Williams Santa Monica, the largest brokerage in Los Angeles, the We Are Realty Group has a wealth of resources and expertise ready to assist with your next real estate move. With over $1 billion a year in transactions, we are fluent in the sale of real estate and the unique challenges of each property, consulting with your best interests at heart. That is why our bar is set to be your most trusted and chosen real estate broker. Ready to buy or sell your property in Los Angeles? Call me now. That's 310-363-0147. That's 310-363-0147. Find your next home at wearerealty.com.